Graham was waiting outside the rehearsal hall 2 nights later. The temporary civil order in our divorce gave me sole use of the apartment and limited Graham to contact through our lawyers. By approaching me in person, he was already risking contempt. The Harbor Chamber schedule had been circulated to the trust board before Graham was suspended. He had gone through old Foundation email until he found me. He looked thinner. His beard had grown in gray along the jaw, and his famous hands were shoved into the pockets of an old peacoat. For one dangerous second, I remembered those hands washing blood from my hair in the hospital. Then I remembered who had put the blood there. "You need to leave," I said. "I need 10 minutes. Caleb came through the doors behind me, carrying a music stand. He looked from Graham to me. "Do you want me to call security?" "Yes," I said. Graham flinched. Perhaps he expected me to protect him from embarrassment. Old habits were the last lies to die. "Mara, please. I never wanted Danner to hurt you. You paid him to recover evidence that would have put Sloane in prison. Evidence that would have put the woman who murdered my parents in prison." I thought I could contain it. His voice cracked. Sloane was sick with grief after her father died. She made one terrible decision. Then, every choice I made was about keeping the next person alive. I laughed once. "Is that what you call my hands?" He took a step toward me. Caleb moved between us, but I touched his sleeve. "No. Let him answer." Graham stared at my fingers on another man's coat. "When I found you that night," he said, "I understood what I had done. I called the ambulance. I stayed through every surgery. I loved you. You didn't find me. You came to check Danner's work." "That isn't true." "Then how did you get there before the neighbor who called in the broken window?" His silence answered. He had always told me instinct brought him to my apartment. In reality, a hired man had missed a check-in. "I married you because I couldn't leave you alone with what we'd done," he said. He still could not apologize without turning his guilt into a claim on me. "You did leave me alone," I said. "You just stayed in the room while you did it." The building security guard appeared at the end of the hall. Graham's face changed when he saw him. "Sloane recorded that call," he said quickly. "She'll claim you manipulated her. She'll drag your parents through court. She'll tell the press your father drove Daniel to suicide. I know. I can stop her. You had 4 years. What do you want from me?" It was the same question he had asked Sloane in the studio. I thought I wanted him frightened, ruined, on his knees. What I wanted was simpler. "Nothing," I said. "That is the part you can't survive." The guard escorted him out. Caleb waited until the doors closed. "Are you all right?" "No." "Do you want me to say something encouraging and probably stupid?" "Not especially." "Good." I had nothing. He sat on the floor beside the music stand. After a moment, I sat too. He did not touch me until I leaned my shoulder against his. By August, the district attorney had presented evidence to a grand jury. No one told me what happened in that room. They only warned me not to discuss the case and not to expect a schedule that cared about my need for an ending. The Ellison Arts Trust moved faster. Its independent audit confirmed that money stolen by Daniel Cross had financed Sloane's early career. The board suspended her September appointment as artistic director and canceled Graham's exhibition. Graham sued, accusing the trust of violating his contract, and me of weaponizing a family institution during a divorce. His portrait of me remained on the gala program while lawyers argued over ownership. I asked the board to leave it there. "Absolutely not," Naomi said. "I want people to see what he sold them. You are not required to turn your trauma into an educational installation." "I'm not. I'm turning his installation into evidence of his character." She rubbed the bridge of her nose. "I miss the client who followed instructions." "You never had that client." The gala would also premiere my arrangement of my father's unfinished concerto. Harbor Chamber had been booked months before the audit, but I had never agreed to perform the piano part in public. Caleb agreed for me. I found out when a revised program arrived in my email. "You told them I would play?" I asked him in the empty hall. He set down his baton. "I told them you could. That wasn't your decision. I know what you sound like in rehearsal. You know what I sound like on a good Thursday with no audience and ice waiting in the freezer. You do not know what these hands will do under stage lights." He started to answer. then stopped. That saved him. "You're right," he said. "I confused believing in you with having permission." He took out his phone, called the board chair, and withdrew my name while I stood there. No speech. No request that I forgive him for wanting the best. When he hung up, he handed me the printed score. "The orchestra plays it either way," he said. "You decide who sits at the piano." For 3 days, I decided no. Then Detective Harris called. The grand jury had returned sealed indictments. She could not give me details, but she asked whether Graham and Sloane were still expected at the gala. Graham planned to attend to protest the canceled exhibition. Sloane had told the board she would come with counsel and demand a public correction. They both believed a room full of donors would protect them. I looked at the portrait on the program. My sleeping face, my invisible hands. "They'll be there," I told Harris. Harris warned me that officers might move during or immediately after the program. The board, chair, and venue security knew to expect a law enforcement operation. Caleb was entitled to know there could be a disruption, even if I could not tell him why. That evening, I called Caleb. "Put my name back." He was silent for a beat. "Are you sure?" "No. And there is something else. Police may interrupt the program. I should have told you before I asked for the piano back. I'm sorry." There was a longer silence. "I'm glad you told me," he said. "I'm also annoyed. You can be both. All right. That's all you have to say about the performance? You told me it was your decision. I'm trying this new thing where I listen." I smiled despite myself. "Caleb, yes? Take the ending slower." "That," he said, "is a terrible artistic choice. Do it anyway." "Yes, ma'am." On gala night, Graham's portrait hung alone in the center of the Ellison Arts Trust lobby. The placard still read "Survivor." I asked the staff to add one line beneath it, painted without the subject's knowledge from a photograph taken while she was sedated. People stopped, read it, looked again. Graham arrived at 7 in a black tuxedo, and the expression of a man entering his own trial by choice. Sloane came 10 minutes later with 2 attorneys. A pale scar crossed the hand she had cut in my apartment. She wore red. The same shade as the dress in Graham's hidden portrait room. I watched from behind the stage curtain. My hands were taped beneath the wrists. My right thumb shook against my skirt. Caleb held out his palm. "Cold?" he asked, terrified. That too. He did not tell me I would be brilliant. He did not promise pain would make the performance meaningful. He just waited. I put my hand in his until the orchestra finished tuning. Then I walked to the piano. The room rose before I played a note. I could see Graham in the front row. His face broke open when he saw my hands above the keys. Sloane sat beside him, pale and rigid. My father's concerto began with 4 notes he used to whistle while making coffee. I played them with my left hand. The cello answered. My right hand entered 6 measures later. Not with the racing passage my father had written, but with a smaller line I could control. It trembled. It missed the center of 1 key. The orchestra carried me until I found the phrase again. I did not play like the woman I had been before the hammer. I played like the woman who had rebuilt the score because the old version no longer fit her hands. At the cadenza, the room disappeared. There was only ivory beneath my fingers, Caleb breathing with me from the podium, and my father's voice on an old recording. Again from measure 60, "Bug, let the phrase breathe." So I did. The last chord faded into silence. Then the audience stood. I remained at the piano until my hands stopped shaking. When I reached the microphone, Graham was crying. 4 years ago, I said. This trust lost Henry and Diane Ellison. 3 weeks later, I lost the use of my hands in an attack that stole evidence from their investigation. Sloane's attorneys leaned toward her. I won't play recordings or ask this room to act as a jury. I can correct the story 2 people here sold about me. I turned toward Graham's portrait. The artist called that painting Survivor. He built a career on the claim that he rescued me. In fact, he possessed my father's stolen archive. He paid the man who attacked me. He married me to monitor what I remembered and to protect the woman whose false alibi he created. Whispers moved through the hall. Graham stood. "Mara, stop." The same command he used when my exercises hurt. The same soft authority that once made me grateful. I looked directly at him. You once told me a pianist's hands were her life. Sloane curled her scarred hand beneath the table. You were right, I said. That is why you took mine. The doors at the back of the hall opened. Detective Harris entered with officers from the cold case unit. 20 minutes before the downbeat, she had sent Naomi a 2-word message. Warrant signed. The invitation-only event put both suspects in one controlled place, and the officers had waited in the service corridor so neither could warn the other. But for once, Graham and Sloane did not get to choose the picture the room saw. An officer approached Sloane first. She rose too quickly and struck the table. Graham told me he destroyed the file. One of her attorneys closed his eyes. Graham stared at her. Don't say another word. She turned on him. You said marrying her would fix it. Sloane. You said she would never play again. The room heard that sentence clearly. So did every reporter standing along the back wall. Harris placed Sloane under arrest for the murders of Henry and Diane Ellison. Another officer arrested Graham for conspiracy, evidence tampering, and his role in the attack on me. As they led him past the piano, he looked at my hands. I did love you, he whispered. I closed the fallboard over the keys. Then love was the ugliest thing you ever painted. The criminal cases did not end that night. After the gala came motions, hearings, continuances, and mornings when Naomi called before breakfast because a newspaper had printed something cruel. Sloane's lawyers attacked the controlled call. Graham tried to suppress the evidence from his studio. Wade Danner changed details twice before his plea agreement was signed. The original devices and forensic copies mattered. So did the print from my apartment, the payments, the fabricated rehearsal file, and backups recovered under warrant from Graham's business server. Each piece was challenged. Each had to stand without the gala applause behind it. 14 months later, Sloane pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder rather than face trial. Graham pleaded guilty to conspiracy, evidence tampering, and arranging the burglary that ended my career as I had known it. Both received long prison sentences. Danner received additional time for the assault. The Ellison Arts Trust recovered part of the stolen money through civil settlements and sold Graham's donated work after the court cleared the title. The board offered me the presidency. I declined. I had spent too much of my life inside buildings named for my family. Graham sent one letter through his lawyer before our divorce became final. It was 6 pages of memory and remorse. He wrote about feeding me ice chips after surgery. He wrote that Sloane had been an obsession, but I had become home. He asked whether the years he cared for me counted for anything. I did not answer. Care used to erase harm in my mind. Gratitude used to make every locked door look like shelter. Caleb and I did not fall into a perfect romance after the gala. For 3 months, we argued about my tempo and pretended coffee after rehearsal was not a date. Our first kiss happened beside a loading dock, while a percussionist rolled timpani between us. Caleb laughed into my hair. Very cinematic, he said. Don't ruin it. Too late. The following spring, Harbor Chamber performed my father's concerto again, this time at a small hall in Queens with terrible backstage plumbing and no reporters. My hands still hurt. Some nights, they always would. Before I walked on stage, I found a foam metronome on my chair. Caleb had written, "Good velocity," across it in black marker. I threw it at him. He caught it, bowed, and lifted his baton. I sat at the piano and placed both scarred hands on the opening chord. 4 notes rose into the room. This time, they belonged only to me.